Good day, everyone. This is Dimitri Lascaris coming to you for Reason to Resist from Montreal, Canada on February 16th, 2026. We are very pleased to be joined again today by our good friend, Laith Marouf, who comes to us today from Beirut, Lebanon. He is the Executive Director of Free Palestine TV. Laith, how are you doing today?
Doing good. Thank you very much for having me, Dimitri. I'm glad you came back safely from Venezuela after that trip. I was watching all the stuff that you were doing.
And you've just returned from Iran, which is exactly why we were anxious to speak to you today. Thankfully, you too have returned safely to Beirut, although I'm not sure whether the place you are now is any less dangerous than the place you came from. But that's the nature of the reporting that Laith does at Free Palestine TV. It involves considerable risk. So Laith, in addition to Iran and what you saw while you were there, we're going to talk today about some events at the Munich Security Conference. We'll do that towards the end of our discussion. But before we get into your trip to Iran, you've experienced, Free Palestine TV has experienced a major hack. And I wanted our audience to be aware of what you've been grappling with these last few weeks. Could you explain to us what happened to the best of your knowledge?
Yeah, I mean, I've been talking to so many security specialists, and they're all baffled. They haven't seen anything like this serious before. We got an invitation to a conference in the United States, and usually when I receive stuff like this, I check the organization, the background of it. I check the website before I touch anything. And this website seemed legitimate. There was even information when you do a Google search that is not the website talking about it and so on, and the organization. And therefore, I entered the website to register for the conference. And another security layer that I do is I never use any emails that are associated with the YouTube and or any projects that we work on, or my personal email. I have extra emails that are just for stuff like this, forms and so on. And I put this Google account into the form. I didn't even put the password, and it immediately took over the computer that I was working on. And so I shut down the computer. Within minutes, the hack jumped from this disposable Gmail account that I have into all the Gmail accounts that are associated with my work and my personal stuff and the YouTube channel. And they hacked it all, changed the passwords, changed the associated numbers and so on. And I alerted Google within minutes of that happening. It took Google a day to respond. By that time, the hackers had taken over the YouTube page and ran a Bitcoin scam stream with around 100,000 viewers on it, and purchased 4 porn ads using the Google advertising account that is associated with the YouTube page. By the way, this all happened within 10 days of us being monetized on YouTube for the first time. So it clearly was part of the trigger that they were not happy that we were monetized for the first time after 2 years. And, it took 11 days to recover my personal email, Gmail account, and the associated advertising and YouTube page with it. By that time, of course, the YouTube page has been deleted. And I thought that was the end of it, once we secured all the accounts and so on. But today, since I reactivated the Google account, suddenly the hacking attempts began again. And so we needed to do more security, scans of all the equipment. And it turned out basically that they had cloned the SIM cards. Okay, so the website that I originally clicked on to go to register for this conference has disappeared already. all the fake pages that were talking about this website and this conference and this organization also already disappeared off the internet. And the cloning of the SIM cards, the Canadian SIM card right now, we tracked, because when somebody clones your cell phone SIM card, when they access it, you lose reception on your own card. So every once in a while, I see that there is no more antenna connection for my SIM card, the Canadian SIM card. And that's basically, we use that to track where is the cloned SIM card. And it turned out, of course, to be in the Zionist colony. So now the experts that are working on the file have determined that this was a state actor to go within minutes from one Gmail account to hack other Gmail accounts and then to clone the cell phone SIM card. This is a unusual process that requires intelligence expertise. It's not something that is easy. Usually to clone a SIM card, you need to be in the vicinity of it and have devices to capture any communication going to the cell towers to be able to do that, or to steal the SIM card directly. And so this is not a small operation. I've now, all the cell phones and computers that I was using had to be shut down. And the experts are saying, even if we wipe all information on them and put them at factory settings, there's a big chance that they have downloaded software onto the hardware. So the processor on the MacBook could be infected itself. So it doesn't matter if I restart the computer from zero, wipe it completely, there's still that. So huge losses. I had to buy a new phone. I'm now trying to buy a new laptop. And also the hours that spent on this crazy affair, and as well now we have to buy all these USB security cards that have encryption on them that I will have to use anytime I enter any password, anything that needs passwords. So it's a real hassle. It's delaying, of course, the work that we are doing. This is the intention, and it cut us off of the 40,000 viewers that we had on subscribers on YouTube, which damaged our reach significantly, obviously. So I would say, warning, heads up to all those who are working on the issue of Palestine in the mediascape. Our enemies right now are moving to a new stage. They used data or GPS before to assassinate tens, hundreds of journalists in Palestine, Lebanon, Iran, and Yemen. Well, now they're moving to another stage of major hacking operations against the independent mediascape that we know.
Now, Laith, you mentioned a state actor. I take it they weren't able to identify which state actor?
Well, I mean, from the tracking of the cloned SIM card and the tracking of the hacking operation itself, it is clear that it's all located inside the Zionist colony. So it is the Mossad that is, in charge of this operation. There could be other, of course, intelligence agencies, but it's mainly, I think, because of the documentaries that we aired last month detailing the history of collaboration between the fascists in Italy and the Zionists prior to World War II and during World War II, as well as the fascists in Greece collaboration with the Zionists. So those were triggers to them. And I think they were really pissed that we finally got monetized on YouTube, and probably I would have been able to pay at least one of our staff from that income. So I encourage everybody to still go to our website. Our website is safe, freepalestine.video. Donate, help us to continue producing this content. We're still on Substack, Rumble, Telegram, X, for people to watch the full documentaries, and we are on Instagram and up scrolled for the shorts that people can watch.
And in case anybody listening has any doubts about this being Israel or some agency of Israel, Laith, we know to a certainty that you have been on the radar of the Israeli government for some time. I've probably going back to the time when you bravely, along with other comrades in Montreal, engineered a cancellation of a speech by the war criminal Netanyahu at Concordia University. But more recently, the Israeli government itself put out a report which identified you as one of the 5 most notorious anti-Semites in Canada. 4 of the other 5 people, including an elected member of the Ontario legislature, were all people known to be defenders of the Palestinian cause. The 5th was just some nobody who probably was an actual anti-Semite, but they threw him in for good measure to make the whole thing look legitimate. But we know this is the whole point, that you are on their radar. You've been on their radar for some time. You've been down on the border, right up at the edge of the Zionist colony with drones overhead. So I think it's fair to say that the most likely suspect is the genocidal regime.
I saw a tweet today by the head of the JDL Canada, the Jewish Defense League. What's his name? Weinstein, or whatever his last name is.
Weinstein, yeah.
Yes, that little. Anyways, because there was, I think, a coalition of groups yesterday in Canada asked for the Jewish summer camps that are manned by Israeli soldiers to be delisted and banned. They are going crazy, and somehow they brought my name into it. and it's because I've been saying this for 20 years. There was a Zionist that was the lawyer of the National Community Radio Association in Canada that was so pissed off that I got elected as the equity officer of the NCRA in 2008, that she pushed the national conference of the NCRA, the National Community Radio Association, to be hosted at one of these Jewish summer camps on the island of Gabriola in British Columbia. Okay. And when I arrived there and I saw, of course, that it is Jewish summer camps and there was Israeli soldiers and, propaganda all over the world, celebrating the genocide of Palestine and the colonization of it, I understood what these camps are meant to be. They're there to program these children to become Jewish supremacists, to feel no remorse committing crimes against Palestinians, Arabs, and Muslims in general. And these summer camps should be shut down. And my first favorite way for those camps to be shut down is that if there is people in the Jewish community of conscience, that they do it themselves. But it seems like there is no people within the Jewish communities globally that have the courage to confront those who have usurped the name of Judaism and usurped the Jewish community. So it seems like the larger communities, the majority, are the ones that are going to have to do this. And this is what's scaring them. I think the Zionists are really scared right now because the whole world knows the problem. And it's right now, it's either them or humanity as a whole. And this is why they're driving us to more and more wars. They'd rather that they kill all of humanity than to dislodge them from control of societies.
Now, I just want to clarify one thing from my perspective about this. I know you and I have had this ongoing conversation. I do believe that there are some people within the Jewish community who do want to challenge this and have challenged these types of things, but they've not been successful. And I do believe that the effort has to be from the anti-Zionist Jewish community. Unfortunately, we need to see considerably more effort made and I dare say sacrifice made in order to confront the Zionist establishment within the Jewish community. So I do think that there are people out there bravely within the Jewish anti-Zionist community doing this kind of work, but it's not been effective thus far for the most part. So that's my view, and I don't want to get into a debate about that. I know you have a different view, and that's fine.
Yes.
So, but I don't want to make, I don't want comments that the people, well, you didn't disagree with Laith, and therefore you agree with Laith. So this, I'm going on the. I'm telling you what my position is.
And then you're going to get comments also, why are you disagreeing with Laith?
Yes, I will. But I just, honestly stated my position, and we don't need to debate this.
And it's fine. There's a margin of, it's fine in a healthy movement to have diverging views, as long as we all agree on the major issues, which is Zionism is a curse on Jews and a curse on humanity. And we need to end its hold on our societies.
Absolutely. So before we start talking about your trip to Iran, I just want to remind people, if you find this video to be informative, please like and share it. And if you're not already a subscriber, we warmly encourage you to become one and help us expand the reach of our unapologetic resistance journalism. So with that, Laith, why don't you begin just by giving us an overview of what you did in Iran without getting into your personal observations. When did you go there? What parts of the country did you visit? What kinds of people did you speak to? Just sort of a big picture of what happened.
Yeah, we had, been invited by Subh Festival, which is a film and media festival that is held annually in Iran. We were nominated to some awards. The festival is in April. But the organizers of the festivals decided to invite those who were nominated for awards to come and see for their self the realities in Iran. And it just, of course, happened that the date they picked, intentionally, of course, is the commemoration of the 1979 Islamic Revolution success. So we arrived in Tehran, and there was the big demonstrations all across the country. Around 22 million of the 90 million Iranians were out in the street showing their support to the Islamic Revolution and the government of Iran. So I think and we stayed there for 4 days. There was multiple places we visited. It was all in Tehran. We didn't have enough time to go somewhere else, but we were free to do whatever we wanted to do. And I think it must be like close to your own experience when you were in Iran. Nobody was stopping you from going anywhere. Nobody was tracking us. And there was a lot that we saw, of course, that was part of some of the program that they had organized for us, the Subh Festival, but we saw a lot more.
So you've been kind enough to share with us just a snippet of the footage you took while you were there, and I wanted to share that with our audience. And why don't we walk through this? There's no audio, so you'll be able to narrate as we go through, and then from there we can get into more detail about what you saw.
Yeah, clearly, I just want to say that we filmed in those 3.5 days, 6 different documentaries. They're all being produced right now by the team. And just for this, interview, we decided to give you some of the B-roll so we can discuss it. But people will have a chance to see the full documentaries in the next few days as they come out. And of course, our YouTube page is down, but we're still on Substack and Rumble for people to watch them.
Okay, so here I'm assuming what we're seeing here, Laith, is the commemoration of the Islamic Revolution. This was the anniversary. Is that correct?
Yes. And this is the main thoroughfare in Tehran between Revolution Square and Azadi Square. It's like 12-kilometer stretch. And you could see, the hundreds of thousands of people that were on this main street, and they were, of course, filling up all these side streets of, and these images are just at the end of the demonstration. So these streets were packed. You couldn't literally you couldn't move without bumping into somebody at the beginning of the demonstration. And from the viewers can see clearly that there's a variety of people in terms of their religiosity, their ages, their ethnicities, or groups that they belong to, and it was a family affair, and security was there, but on the sides of the streets, people were interacting with them. So this is the first clip, right?
Yes, and so do you know whose photograph this lady is holding in her hands?
Yeah, so she's holding the photo of Ayatollah Khamenei, actually the current supreme leader of Iran at a younger age.
Presumably, yes, when he was younger. And when you were walking the streets, not necessarily during the demonstration, but just in general, when I was there in May of last year, a few weeks before the criminal assault on Iran by Israel and the United States, I noticed hundreds of women. I mean, I walked, I think, dozens of kilometers during the course of a week, all over the city, like you said, without anybody guiding me or restricting my movements. I saw hundreds of women who were wearing no headdress, and I saw many women who were. I would estimate that probably a small majority were wearing hijabs, and that a large minority were not. And I didn't see anybody, any woman on any occasion who was not covering her hair, her head, being harassed by anybody, not once. Did you have a similar experience?
Yeah, look, I didn't have time to look at this footage that Rabia, our editor, put together just for you for this piece. But obviously, we interviewed women without hijab. In my experience over those 4 days and the last trip that I had a few years ago, like 4 years ago, is that around 50% of women on the street do not have hijab. Mm-hmm. And then the other 50%, you had half of that people have a shawl on their head, like Brigitte Bardot kind of style from the 1950s and 60s, with like half of the hair showing, and then around 25% of the women had a full black hijab, like that's covering all their hair. And we didn't see anybody objecting or harassing or stopping anybody. Some of those women that will come out, of course, in our videos in the next few days, were actually even interacting with the police, talking to them. Nobody was telling them anything. We went to multiple cafes throughout our time, and you know how cafes are kind of the meeting place for lovers in places where there's no bars, right? So there was clearly a lot of romance happening around us, and there was nobody intervening on that. This is one of the main propaganda points that are constantly being debunked by people visiting Iran themselves. So yeah, I encourage anyone that can to go to Iran to see by their own eyes the realities.
One other thing I want to comment on when it comes to the status of women, in 2024, I went for the very first time in my life to Qatar, and I spent several days in Doha. And over again, I've lost count of the number of times I saw this. I saw a man who was attired in a white, what I would call a robe, and behind him were 3 or 4 women wearing a burqa, walking in single file. And oftentimes, all of the women, I couldn't see their faces because their faces were entirely covered, but they all seemed to me to be adult, just based upon their height. So, 2, 3, 4 adult women walking in single file behind a man. And I don't think I ever saw that one. I'm not saying it doesn't happen in Iran. Iran is a huge country, and I never saw any part of Iran other than Tehran, and I was only there for a week. But I never saw that once when I was in Tehran. And I saw it repeatedly every day when I was in Doha in Qatar. Was that your experience as well, that you didn't see that sort of thing very often in Tehran?
Yeah, definitely. Before I answer that, look at this graffiti that we're looking at on the side of the building. is for martyr Kamran Najatallahi, who is an architect and an artist that was very famous in the late 70s. And he was assassinated by the Shah and the Mujahideen Khalq terrorists that the United States were paying because he was building monuments, architectural monuments, and statues celebrating the Islamic Revolution. So you could see how the Iranian people appreciate all their martyrs and appreciate all forms of cultural revival and sovereignty. And this man paid a high price for daring to create art that commemorates the revolution and the Iranian people's sovereignty. In terms of, women's rights, we just had a sneak peek into the Epstein files, all of us together as humanity. And in those Epstein files, it was clear that the Saudi, Emirati, Qatari, Bahraini elite that are appointed by the West to rule over the Arabian Peninsula are depraved, pedophilic, sex addicts, drug addicts that are sending their own children. Remember, there was a post from one of these Emirati princesses that was talking to Epstein about her sister, who's 13 years old, saying that she's prettier than her and I'm preparing her for you. So this is the reality. The Wahhabi cult, the Arab monarchs are kind of, if our viewers have watched Killers of the Flower Moon or read the book about how the United States colonial system brought down the indigenous nations and looted them and appointed and drugged the leaders and raped them and appointed them to do the same to their own people. This is exactly what's happening for the last 100 years in the Arabian monarchic circles. So women's rights in Iran is so much more advanced. Like I would say 80% of our hosts throughout the 4 days were women. 80%. This is a huge number. Almost all of them had PhDs. Okay. I sat down, we were sitting down with one of the hosts that we had from the Subh Festival. This is a woman that also is the anchor of the most watched television show in Iran. Okay. And that's all we thought we knew about her. She's a journalist and a host of the most watched show. And in one of the sessions that we were sitting there, the government official told us, look at that woman beside you. And we all looked. We thought he's going to talk to us about her media expertise. And he said, that woman beside you has advanced sciences PhD. She has multiple, trademarks and, discoveries in the advanced sciences, and a lot of initiatives in security and military have been born of her. She was 32 years old. And the room was full of women like that. Mm-hmm. So I would say in Iran, women are more appreciated than any other place you could imagine on this planet.
So now let's move to some footage of some damage that you videotaped when you were there. And before we leave this image, I just want to point out, I noticed this as you were speaking, Laith. In the upper portion of the video, it looks like this is like an overhead pass. Maybe it's pedestrian or it might be a street. And it looks on the left side of this overhead pass that there has been extensive fire damage. Some of the metal grating appears to have melted even. Do you know if that damage was done in the riots that happened recently? You know anything about that?
Yes, it stands right outside a fire station on the left side, just of this main thoroughfare, and the fire stations were one of the primary targets by the paid rioters that the Mossad and the CIA triggered. They were the first thing, along with ambulance, bases or locations where ambulances are gathered, as well as bus depots and bus stops, were the first targets by the rioters. And that is to, as we see here, these are like the remains of tens of public buses that were deliberately targeted. So what the rioters wanted to do was to set up fires, but before they do that, they wanted to make sure the fire trucks are not going to be able to come and put them out. They also wanted to assault and kill people around the streets, but they didn't want anyone to come and rescue them, so there will be higher casualties. Therefore, they targeted the ambulances, and then they targeted the buses to make sure the local populations that are stuck in this riot situation cannot escape certain death. So they wanted to maximize the casualties, and that can only happen by destroying the emergency infrastructure in the society, the fire departments, the ambulances and the hospitals, and the public transportation. And we can continue going on. This is a major mosque in Tehran. That was one of the close to 280 mosques and churches that were deliberately targeted by these rioters. Wow. This was very sad, to watch this, to look at this. Could you imagine? I mean, there was, I think, maybe 1 or 2 churches that were burned down in Canada around 8 years ago or something like this. And the government and the right wing in Canada still can't stop talking about it. But can you imagine if 200 or almost 300 churches or synagogues in Canada are attacked in a few days? What would have been the response of the government? They would have deployed full military on the population in Canada if this would have happened.
And probably would have characterized it as a genocide to boot. Now, what are we seeing here? Oh, this looks familiar to me, Laith. This appears to be the missile museum. Could you tell us about this?
Yes, this is the Aerospace Industries Museum. And we got a tour to take a look at, of course, all the advancements that Iran has and of its indigenous missile and drone programs. And we got a full detail. We got to see the downed American MQ-8 and MQ-9 drones that were reverse engineered by the Iranians. And we saw all the radar systems. I don't know if you went and visited this location.
I did. I did a report from it. In fact, this gentleman right here, if I recall correctly, he's a brigadier general. This gentleman right here. And did you have the privilege of listening to him? I mean, he speaks in Farsi, and this gentleman, I also know the man sitting beside him. He's a journalist from Press TV. Wonderful.
Yes, he's a very amazing journalist, and yeah. I tell you what, I think he's one of the best translators that I've ever seen. Yes. The guy was missing one beat, one word that comes out of our mouth or the host's mouth when they're speaking in Persian, and he's not a translator. So kudos to him. He's doing this obviously because of the love of his nation. I would say
I just want people to know his name is Ali Reza Akbari, and you can find him on X. His handle is at ITS AliReza _AKB, and he does excellent work as well. Sorry to interrupt you, Laith. Please go ahead.
Oh yeah, I mean, him and his young wife, they're both like young couple, were amazing hosts. There was so many things that were telling about how the Iranian society is so much more humane and welcoming to the rest of humanity than visiting any other place, honestly, just by interacting with these youth. One thing I would note about this museum is that we saw the weapons that Iran used in its attack on the Zionist colony during the 12-day war. So we saw some of those hypersonic missiles. We saw what's inside the warhead, the fact that it has almost 80 explosive heads that fragment before it comes down to the ground to make the air defense systems go berserk. But everything that we saw in the museum is actually at least 10 years old. So this is important to note, because in the situation of a new war that the United States or the Zionist colony trigger against Iran, we will see in this upcoming war, if it happens, weapons that we have no idea what they are, and the enemy does no idea what it is. Remember, before the 12-day war, the Zionists and the imperialists were always denigrating Iran's technology, claiming that all those hypersonic missiles that were put on the parades were actually empty shells, that were just models, that Iran doesn't have this technology, that is all bull. And then we were all taught a lesson as humanity to stop listening to anything that comes out of the mouth of an Israeli. Well, now we know if Iran used hypersonic missiles that go at Mach 12 last year during the 12-day war, and that have 80 fragmenting heads, well, you could imagine what's going to come if that was 10 years old technology. So for sure, Iran has hypersonic missiles that are much, much, much more advanced and could be at the level of the Russian Krasnar, what is it called? Maybe I'm pronouncing it incorrectly, the hypersonic missile that the Russians are using that goes at 20 somewhat Mach speed.
All right. Now, Laith, I'd like to show you some footage that's been circulating on social media. This is a clip from a short video posted by Middle East Eye about the commemoration of the Islamic Revolution. I'm not going to show you the whole video. The first part of it is pretty much footage like we just showed people of, masses of people in the streets on the day when the Islamic Revolution is commemorated. What I want to focus on here is in the middle of this video, Middle East Eye for some reason has inserted what it says is footage taken at nighttime of women screaming death to Khamenei from their balconies. So here's what they posted on YouTube. Now, in the first part of that, they say that this report starts with at the moment that what it says in the subtitles, at the moment that the authorities set off these fireworks to commemorate, people started screaming. Some women started screaming death to Khamenei, and I couldn't make out anything at that point. But towards the end of the clip, as you saw, you can hear quite distinctly some women, doesn't sound like a lot of them, screaming in English, not in Farsi. They're speaking English, death to Khamenei. So I don't know how many people, how many men or women were doing this thing and why they were speaking in English. I don't know. They were clearly trying to appeal to a Western English-speaking audience, I suppose. But did you witness anything like this, Laith?
No. I mean, we went around the city by ourselves. Everybody that, of course, once they see you, they recognize you don't have Iranian facial cuts, like, you don't have the hair, so they immediately come and talk to you in every shop, everything. And they ask you, what are you doing here, or where are you from? And the minute somebody hears I'm from Palestine, I almost got mobbed, in terms of people want to hug and kiss, right? This is how much love I would get as a Palestinian walking the streets in Tehran. And I didn't get any bad, expressions from anybody. Of course, look, in a society of 90 million, if all the 90 million support the government and the leader, then there must be something wrong. You see what I mean? It's normal to have somebody not happy with the government. That happens everywhere in every society. But does one person who, most probably, in my opinion, that audio is just inserted on the video. It doesn't go with the video. Does that mean that the government has to fall because one woman shouted from the window, "Death to Khomeini"? Well, we hear people calling for the death of Trump, or the collapse of the government, or putting him in jail every day in the United States, by the tens of thousands, by the millions. Does that mean we should burn down the United States and burn every church and synagogue and destroy every fire station and ambulance and hospital? This is where the exceptionalism that is rooted in racism, in supremacy of the West comes. Like, what is acceptable to the West is not acceptable to anybody else. The other thing that I would say is that, we met a lot of youth in our tour. And for any society, youth are the most vulnerable to manipulation, especially in the age of social media that we live, that is algorithmically controlled, that is directed specifically to specific markets to affect them certain ways, with AI and so on. And these youth have seen in their own eyes what happened to Syria, what happened to Iraq, what happened to Palestine. There's no way you can blind yourself to the objectives of the Zionist and the imperialist, and the realities of, once you fall under their rule, what will happen to you. Okay, the Iranian government has provided free education, free healthcare, practically free public transportation, subsidized gasoline, subsidized electricity, subsidized medicine, and indigenous cheap productions of all industry, including cars, that you can buy like so cheaply as an Iranian there. And the videos that we watched, by the way, we were lucky. We were invited to meet the chief of Tehran police, and we sat down, and they showed us videos filmed by the police of the riots that were never aired. And I tell you, I've watched a lot of disturbing videos in my life, not because I wanted to, but because of our work as journalists. And I've never seen something like this, except when I can compare it to ISIS and the Zionist crimes, the videos of children being burnt in tents in Gaza. So in those videos, we could see how the rioters were carrying, in the beginning, machetes, and they were targeting cops and firefighters and ambulances. We watched them take over a fire truck and kill the firefighters inside it, because they wanted to make sure that the fire truck doesn't reach the fire to stop it. In another video, We watched these rioters have put gasoline in a fire extinguisher, and were pumping it and then lit it on the cops that didn't have guns. These are the first, police in Iran are not allowed to carry guns. They only carry batons. And they lit up these cops on fire, burned them alive. Okay. We watched, videos of police officers that have been killed, mangled, and stripped naked, their genitals disfigured on purpose. These were, I didn't believe that the Iranian police and the Iranian government were allowing us to watch this, but they were so disturbed with the propaganda that is being aired in Western media that they, risked letting us watch these videos. And I was honestly, the only thing that I could compare what these writers were doing in Iran is to ISIS and the Zionist genocide in Gaza. That it was disturbing, disgusting. We met with a lot of families that their children were killed, 14-year-old, 15-year-old, 13-year-old kids, boys and girls, targeted with direct weapons fire. We watched those videos of pump action rifles being carried by the rioters and fired directly into ambulance and police officers. Again, by the way, pump action machine guns, rifles is not something that is easy to get in or is not issued to any of the security forces. So all of it was very clear to us how they were moving in formations. They had leaders. We watched how the leader of each cell was moving the crew. It was organized terrorism by the United States and the Zionists, and the main target were the innocent civilians and the first responders and the security forces that were attempting to stop the riots.
Now, a few minutes ago, before you recounted those horrifying images you saw, you said that it's impossible not to see the true agenda of these Western governments in Iran. Unfortunately, Laith, it does appear to be possible not to see, at least if you live in the Iranian diaspora in Canada. There was a protest here recently, and I want to share with you and our audience a video posted on X yesterday. I think it was the day after this protest. The reports were that there were hundreds of thousands of people at this thing. I suspect that's greatly exaggerated, but it was a large demonstration in Toronto based on the images that I saw. Now, just by way of background, the character who posted this yesterday, his name, Adam Zivo. You may have heard me talk about Adam Zivo before. Adam Zivo is a reporter for the National Post, which is the flagship newspaper of the fanatically Zionist post-media empire, the largest newspaper publisher in Canada, which is controlled by a pro-Trump hedge fund in the United States. Zivo and I have locked horns in the past. He interviewed me when I was in Crimea in 2023, and he published a hate piece on me based on that interview, which I recorded, by the way, and I published the recording in full. And it was on the front page of the National Post, and the newspaper and Zivo accused me of going to Russia to whitewash Putin's crimes. That was the headline, something like that. Anyways, last year, Zivo amazingly just straight up admitted, for no reason, that when he was reporting for the National Post from Ukraine, he was working with Ukrainian and Canadian intelligence, something that I never tire of reminding him. So that's the background of this charlatan, Adam Zivo. So I'm just going to play for you this little interview that Zivo, I don't know if he did the interview or somebody else did, but he posted this video speaking to a protester in this demonstration, or a demonstrator in Toronto this past weekend, in opposition to the Iranian government. And here's what happened.
So like if you live in a Jewish neighborhood and they're like the most wonderful people. So we actually got this from our next door neighbor. We asked them like if we could have a flag so we could bring it here. They have been so supportive. We've been friends with them. So we're very, very happy. Finally we're coming together, and all of this propaganda like that the Islamic regime is doing is like finally coming to an end. Even in Iran, right now people are supporting Israel. We are friends with the world. We want to be friends with the world. And these are all the stuff that the Islamic regime is doing to separate people. This movement is about bringing everyone together.
Good Lord, I can't take it anymore. So Laith, as I'm sure you saw, plenty of people were walking by her. She was speaking with images of the Shah and his son, Pahlavi, who, by the way, just had a meeting with Volodymyr Zelensky, the so-called champion of democracy. Just curious, Laith, what would you say to this young demonstrator if you had the opportunity to speak to her?
I personally wouldn't want to speak to her. You know, it's hard to change the mind of people that have been brainwashed from childhood with hate towards Muslims, Islam, and sovereignty. It's hard to teach somebody who has been convinced that white Western civilization is superior to themselves. It's hard to make that person love themselves and love their people and love their history by that point. This is a major problem for a lot of the diaspora communities, not only the Iranians, is how they are engulfed in this propaganda, and then after a while generations become needy and wanting to be accepted into the white club. Of course, the Epstein files tell us that no matter how much this demonstrator, or no matter how much the Shah and the diaspora elite of Iran kiss the behind of the Zionists, there will always be goyim to them. They will always be less than, and they will always be disposable. And of course, we know, look, if Iran, God forbid, falls, Iranian women, Iranian children will be raped and trafficked and made into jerky to be fed to Epstein elite around the world, the Epstein cabal that rules us. Remember that video of the Palestinian baby that was kidnapped by Israeli soldiers at the beginning of the Gaza genocide? Remember that?
Mm-hmm.
Nobody knows what happened to that child, but I can predict that that baby must have got raped, must have got killed, and must have got eaten by those satanic Zionists. So if this woman is willing to be like the Emirati Emir princess that was offering Epstein her younger sister that's 13-year-old and prettier, that's her choice. The woman and the people of Iran, the Islamic Republic of Iran, refuse to be fodder for the pedophilia and cannibalism ring. And that's a choice that most people that are self-respecting will make also.
Finally, since we're on the subject of the depraved Western elite, I'm going to share with you, Laith, you probably have seen some portion of this, a snippet of little Marco Rubio's speech at the Munich Security Conference. And after I show this snippet, I'm just going to show you the reaction of the audience in a second clip, and then I'm going to ask you to comment on this.
For 5 centuries, before the end of the Second World War, the West had been expanding. Its missionaries, its pilgrims, its soldiers, its explorers pouring out from its shores to cross oceans, settle new continents, build vast empires extending out across the globe. But in 1945, for the first time since the age of Columbus, it was contracting. Europe was in ruins. Half of it lived behind an iron curtain, and the rest looked like it would soon follow. The great Western empires had entered into terminal decline, accelerated by godless communist revolutions and by anti-colonial uprisings that would transform the world and drape the red hammer and sickle across vast swaths of the map in the years to come. Against that backdrop, then as now, many came to believe that the West's age of dominance had come to an end, and that our future was destined to be a faint and feeble echo of our past. But together, our predecessors recognized that decline was a choice, and it was a choice they refused to make.
I love it when people who are protecting billionaire pedophiles talk to us about what is and is not godless. Now, here's the reaction of the Temple Throng.
Thank you.
If I didn't know any better, I'd say that Jeffrey Epstein had just delivered a speech to them from the grave. They're so appreciative. Anyways, to close out our conversation today, my friend, I'm just going to invite you to comment on what you've just heard.
You know, when I first watched this clip, it reminded me of the great Caribbean British poet and singer Marco Rubio, and he had a very famous song called Invasion. And it goes, those old Europeans, they had a lot of men. They went over to America to try and conquer the Red Indian. And it goes on and on, relaying the history of invasions and genocides committed by the Europeans. Unfortunately, it seems like the Europeans are an invasive species on this planet. And the only way to deal with an invasive species is to totally eradicate it from lands that it invaded. This man wasn't happy that the colonized peoples fought for independence after World War II. In his mind, we should have all continued to be slaves, continued to be forcefully converted into a perversion of the great religion of Jesus of Palestine, Christianity. And he's very proud about it. And it seems like the European elite are also in alignment with this. They're fine to be, slapped around by Trump and his cabal, as long as they are allowed to also rape and pillage whole nations. This is why right now, it's true. It's almost as if World War I and World War II never happened, as if the communist revolution that stopped the total, coming together of what, North European cultures to conquer humanity, stop that. Or World War II, at the end of it, with the anti-colonialism movements, didn't even happen. The fall of Damascus, by the way, was the indicator that whole 100 years that passed, it's like we are back to square zero, not square one even, in terms of decolonization. And this man and the Zionists and imperialists behind them are intent on re-enslaving the rest of humanity. And I tell you that we here in the Arabic and Muslim world the axis of resistance at least, is the last hope for humanity. If Iran and the axis of resistance fall in any war that it may come soon, there will be only China and Russia, and China and Russia are content with staying behind their own wall and protecting themselves and watching the rest of us get raped and pillaged. So any human being on this planet, on any continent, that seeks freedom and doesn't want a return to outright slavery and genocides, as has happened in Gaza over the last 2 years. If they don't want this whole planet to be a copy of what happened to Gaza, we should all pray for Iran and the axis of resistance to defeat the Epstein cabal that rules the West. We should all put our efforts financially and physically and emotionally to defend the axis of resistance and try to help to bring down this empire of cannibalism and pedophilia.
On that note, that somber note, we will conclude our discussion today. Thank you so much, my friend, and welcome home from Iran.
Thank you very much, Dimitri, for having me, and hope to see you soon.